Come on, big gold belt. Come on, y'all.
All right, good people, and welcome back here for another recap review show at Big Gold Belt Media. Adversary and I are getting ready to tackle episode 4 of Bel-Air season 2, which that episode is available now. So hopefully you already know the drill here. We're going to deep dive into everything, all spoilers and all that other good stuff, and hopefully you had a chance to check it out. So the episode's released 5 o'clock a.m. on Peacock, and typically we try to drop this recap review at 6, but we decided to do something a little bit different just to see if it catches better for you all, because I feel like no one's up at 5 or 6 looking for content, so why not just do it a little bit later and maybe you will engage more. But anywho, my guy Adversary, how you feeling today?
Bro, no complaints. Everything is good. I feel like we might need to collaborate on some lotto numbers now, because you predicted and I predicted. And sure enough. So as soon as I saw that, I said, you know what, I'm gonna get with Niger, dog. We're gonna figure this Powerball thing out and just split that money and disappear, bro.
For right now, we can hit them parlays for March Madness, you know.
Yeah, at this point, I was like, yo, that was kind of crazy. Like, we predicted like a good portion of that episode. So yeah.
So with tonight's episode, man, titled "Don't Kill My Vibe," we got Will, who has just been suspended because of what he did at the protest last week and last episode. And with that, he was also kicked off the basketball team, which honestly probably was a blessing in disguise, because those guys were a little bit racist towards him. We'll call it what it is. But this isn't the end of his basketball career, because now he seeks the option of going AAU, which is, you know, for our age and our generation, AAU was either a complimentary piece to playing high school basketball or all season and whatnot. But I think, you know, I don't know too much now, but there was something interesting said in this episode that, like, you can work AAU and still get an NIL deal, which means you can make money by going this route, which is it's a game changer. Which obviously the NIL deal is obviously available for collegiate athletes as well too. But at the same time, the options, to me, just to kind of sum this up, the options is unlimited for anybody who wants to play ball. You just don't have to go the school route. You don't have to do college. You don't have to do a year. You don't have to go overseas. There seems to be so many different options in order to get you paid and exposed and ultimately make it to the NBA. So, like, you know, folks, if you know any more knowledge or information about that, just go ahead and jump in the comments and let us know. But
I was gonna say, it's funny how that works too, because after all these institutions have made their millions and millions and millions, we finally some crumbs now.
Yeah, 1,000%. And honestly, I'm surprised that based on how last week episode, where they kind of did tackle about the sort of the systematic oppression in education, that they didn't tackle the systematic oppression in collegiate sports to that same notion, in terms of, like, we're gonna make a lot of money off of you all, but we're not gonna give you
you ain't gonna get a dime.
Exactly.
Like, you'll get penalized if we find out you're making money.
1,000%. So but I'm just but anywho, this episode was pretty cool. Got a lot of things to talk about, so let's get right into it. And ultimately we start off with Will, who obviously is kind of chopping it up with Carlton and recapping what happened last week, where we understand that Carlton feels that Will did this for his own image. Carlton is upset that he wasn't able to really deliver because he had the anxiety attack, but also because Will wasn't there for him when that was the one thing that Uncle Phil told him to do. But ultimately, what happens here is, well, Will popularity grew and Carlton's hit rock bottom, flatline, dead, you know, burial, because while that was just part of it, you know, high school, we all know what it is. It is all about popularity. It doesn't care who's the smartest or who dresses the best and, you know, what sports you play. It's truly just a matter of popularity and that where you at on that totem pole. You can be the most lamest person, but ultimately popular, and your experience in high school is going to be a delight. You can be the most smartest person and unpopular, and you probably had a rough little going there. It's all sorts of different things here. So understanding that while Carlton is thriving educationally and obviously being nominated for the highest award with the what they keep calling it. I think of it saying it's in my notes. I keep forgetting the name of it. But while he's being nominated or being mentioned to be nominated for this, and he was a part of the BSU, and he had Will, who's suspended, but ultimately really popular. It's a lot of different dynamics going on here. So just to kind of start off tonight's episode here, what was your thoughts about the two of them? I'm gonna call them brothers, even though they're not brothers, they're cousins, but I'm gonna call them brothers. But ultimately, what is your thoughts about the two brothers as they kind of chop up their different vantage points and results of the last week sort of protests?
Yeah, well, it was like I said, like I called it. I knew you could tell it was foreshadowed very well. There was going to be some level of fallout between the two based on A, what happened, and B, the appearance of what happened. Because that was the thing. So it's like you can look at it from the vantage point of Carlton had the anxiety attack, Will took matters in his own hands and ran up to the roof. But that could easily be misconstrued or interpreted in another way, like Will took it upon himself, like, nah, I'm a bust a move, and then everyone will think I'm cool. You know, at the end of the day, who really knows what was going through the character's mind? But the appearance of it, that's what I was saying last week. There's gonna be some fallout because it's gonna come across like Will just did it on some look at me, as opposed to, all right, Carlton, I have you covered because you can't do it right now. Yeah. But I do like that they were able to sit down and discuss it without it exploding and becoming a scene, you know, like it probably would have in season 1. And also I like how Will covered for him when Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil came in to deliver the news. Carlton's you could see him kind of looking shifty, like, what's Will about to say? He's like, is there anything else? And Will just, nah, I'm gonna just do my time. And I love that. Even with them bumping heads a little bit, they still follow code. You know, I got you. I told you I wasn't going to say nothing. I'm not going to say nothing. So I thought that was great.
Yeah. And you know, the show continues to take the unconventional route. So to see whether it's two adults or two kids of color, two black individuals, just talk things out. And there's a lot of that happened in this episode. But yeah, the Founders Award is what I was getting at. But I will. The last thing I'll just quickly say is I'm going to say I side with Carlton here. I think Will absolutely took this as a moment of being an opportunist to know that he could benefit off of Carlton's shortcomings. And I tried to keep my mind set on Bel-Air and not really reference what we know Will to be in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Right.
But if I had to, it's absolutely in his DNA to humiliate Carlton, but also got his brother's back. Cousin, I know, folks. Again, you feel me? But it's absolutely in his DNA to do such. He's done it numerous times here, and so it's like, would he actually take a step over Carlton, who had a legitimate anxiety attack that he knew about, that he knew was a potential outcome? You know, his aunt and uncle told him, like, listen, coming off the we managing his meds, things can happen. And he really went up there to do so. Now, the only other thing Will could have really saved his own ass for in the sake of this argument is saying that, nah, I did this for Ashley. And that I agree with. I do believe he did this for Ashley. He just didn't mention it because I think, as we've seen in this episode and last episode, when it comes down to everything, everything circles around Ashley when it comes down to this. Ashley happens to be the center of this family that just makes everything rotate around, and everybody seem to have and rotate or stop depending on what Ashley needs. And I think when he talked about, like, hey, you got to keep going, I think that was a lot of Will also looking at himself in the mirror like, I got to keep going, but I need you to do it because you're my hope.
And I love how they made that point in this episode. Granted, it was later in the episode, but I love how they brought that back. Exactly. Because it even hit me when I was like, damn, I ain't even look at it like that. But I guess from, like you said, from that point of view with the family, she's the baby, she's the hope, she's the future. So we need you. Even if all of us are in dysfunction, You got to be on point. We need you
Exactly.
on point. So I love how they
And that's-
spotlighted that.
Yeah, so it's an amazing arc to give this character who they don't feature each and every week to understand that, no, I know this is a lot about Will's story, but why not make it about Ashley? Why not take this Bel-Air series and give all these other characters, make them three-dimensional, but truly make the story about this one? It's like when I don't want to go too much in a tangent, but I always say when you talk about Star Wars and you talk about the Skywalker saga, it's really about R2-D2, the person who was there the entire time, who witnessed all of these different events all throughout this time. And everyone thinks it's all about, was it about Luke? Was it about Anakin? Was it about Obi-Wan? No, it was about the one person that was there the entire time, R2-D2, who literally has saved their ass over and over and over and over and over. And I think it's a lot of what this is, that Ashley comes in as just being a character who seems to be like a background character, but she's the true motivation, the soul and the compass of this entire family. And Will is making sure that by looking at how Will does whatever he does, it always seems to go through Ashley. Ashley grounds this family, and I love it, and I need more. I need more.
Yeah.
So.
It's great, and I think it's necessary, because even if you take that scenario and put it in a real family household, it's the same dynamic.
That's what I was getting.
As we slip up as adults, we got to be on point for the babies. Yeah, because that's the future. And
we all been in that position one way or another, where you know, you when you're young, you're like, yo, you're the man of the house. And like, no, that didn't mean like you made all the decisions. It just means that like, we need you to be responsible. We need you to set the tone in here. You know, when things are getting crazy and we're acting out of line, we need you to be the best of all of us. And it sounds like a big responsibility, but it's encouraging to the development of who we become as adults. And I think that's what we're seeing is Ashley. She is the young kid.
Yeah.
But when you actually sit down and respect you, like, she has adult qualities. She's making decisions. She's standing up for herself. She's even holding herself accountable, which is big for a middle schooler.
13-year-olds are doing right.
So, anywho, we got Aunt Viv who's playing in her art show, and it's a lot more. It's a lot more challenging than she thought it was. But anyway. Will is obviously at home because he's suspended, and Aunt Viv gives him the prep talk about, listen, what about the AAU thing? Putting that option back on the table. And he quickly says that, like, yeah, it's a good option. And obviously Aunt Viv is always going to be in Will's corner. But he says, since I came back, Uncle Phil said he was going to support my dream, but that has not happened yet.
Yep.
We'll save comments on that for a second, because there's a little bit more to that I want to add before I toss it to you. But anyway, we get Carlton and Miss Basson, and she talks about it. We peeped what you did last week,
and that was your prediction. You said that was gonna happen.
Yeah, we peeped.
Yeah.
So therefore, the faculty has nominated you because of your action, and Yasmin peeped. Whoops, not a good look.
That's just what you said was gonna happen.
Yeah, not a good look. Not a good look. Jazz and Hilary, and this is a conversation I think we can we'll sum up half of the Jazz and Hilary story here.
Okay.
Jazz, and I love when you start to speak about Jazz. I feel like you channel a lot of this character. I feel like there's a lot of relatable factors to this character because you speak so passionate about it. But Hilary is making decisions in the influencer house without going through Ivory, which means by last week when she was trying to get the Simply Sprite idea endorsement, and they needed Ivy's
social media followers,
and now she said, okay, well, she's not gonna do it, then I'll do it. She's bossing up. And Jazz is there, and he's like, he's listening. He's like, okay, that's what's up. Sounds like a healthy relationship. Not sure if it was sarcasm or not. But then, you know, they started to talk about, hey, let's do lunch. I said, can't do lunch because I'm still grinding on this, but let's do dinner. He said, it's okay. But you know, what's up with, like, you know, he was going to do dinner with his parents. I said, well, why can't I do it? I said, you know what? Are you ready for that? She's like, what's the big deal? You know my parents, why can't I know yours? And you know, she says, I want to know what makes Jazz. What do you think about Hilary's approach with now being the boss? And then what do you think about Jazz and his support of Hilary?
I love Hilary's approach. And this is kind of what I was saying, I think, around episode 2, where again, there's foreshadowing. Jazz already mentioned, look, she's already kind of slighted you on 1 or 2 occasions already. Then she came at me. Granted, she didn't know we were dating, but then she came at me. Yeah. Now, post that, she's still like I always say, when people show you who they are, believe them. Don't doubt it. Don't second guess it. They're showing you. Actions. So y'all are supposed to collaborate. Y'all are supposed to be partners, but as things progress, it's Ivy making all the decisions. And her fallback is always going to be, well, my name is the one on the house. I'm the one that fronted the money. All right, cool. We understand that, but it's still a team effort. It's like, all right, if you took the Power Rangers, all right, the Red Ranger essentially was the leader. But if he's not available, or if something is going down, none of the other Rangers make a move now because the red one didn't give the okay. Like, it don't work like that. It's a team. So yes, you brought this, or you might be kind of the front runner because of your resources, but it's still a team effort. So I like that she's taking matters in her own hands. I like that she's doing it in a way, or she's trying to do it in a way that's non-combative. And like I said, I personally feel like that will come to a head. How it plays out, I don't know, because the show definitely throws you for loops, but it's going to be some kind of confrontation. There has to be, especially after the last episode where Ivy the lawyer said it's not a good idea. And then Hilary was just like, oh, all right, watch this. You know what I'm saying? And
No. Let me add some more to this, because this is an interesting conversation. I have another question to ask. So we're going to just finish talking more about Hilary and Jazz right now.
Okay.
The dinner.
Yes.
Hilary shows up, completely surprises Jazz. She is full-blown Muslim. And beyond just her appearance and what again was shocking to Jazz to see, she then absolutely reads the Wikipedia page for what does it mean to be Muslim, and she sounds so trivial, so fake, that his parents was able to see right through it. They wanted to stop her. They was just like, this is enough, essentially, because she's overdoing it. Obviously, she's being super extra. Just for them to have a conversation in bed where Jazz does show, I mean, he keeps it 100. It's just like, listen, they just wanted you to be yourself. Like, yeah, I knew that was kind of like, I knew I was acting kind of funny and whatnot, but like, you didn't have to do all that. And he was still being very nice, giving her a lot of grace, which, to be honest, listen, 10 times out of 10, that's not going to be a friendly conversation. Like, bro, you literally just embarrassed yourself and me in front of my parents. And he actually was just kind of really nice about it. But the question I wanted to throw to you, after they talked about it, as she peeped, like, you was acting different. So I wanted to make sure that they liked me. My mom was in my head about, the whole thing with this. Her mom also was in her head about, this ain't typically the type of guy you go after. You kind of, he's kind of flashy. Don't agree. I don't think he's flashy. He has a nice car. I don't think he's flashy, but he's not so much the type that she likes, the types that's emotionally available, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This one's there for him, present, and they know him and whatnot. My question is, you brought up Hilary and how she acts with Ivy, and you said you think that's going to come to a head.
Yeah.
The two of them have discussed how they are absolutely different, but he said he is rocking with her to the end, point blank. Her mother has been in her head, which has resulted in her going out and getting the whole cosplay of how to be Muslim,
right,
and showed her ass. But you see, cause and effect.
Yeah.
And now that seems to be, is her mom still in her head, or did she kind of buy into a Jazz saying we're all different, but we're gonna rock out and whatnot? Do you think, beyond, what do you think? How do you think this all plays out now? Hilary, who has shown a combative nature towards Ivy, who has shown to have a lack of a mind of herself with her mother, who is now in a predicament with somebody who loves her, but she may actually not be compatible with this person, with her traits of being combative, obviously being what do you call it? I would just call her a cosplayer when she's imitating who she really wants to be. Like she's not being herself. But ultimately, how do you see the two of them play out now? Do you see that fizzle, or do you think it works?
No, I honestly think that works out very well for them, and here's why. Since the beginning of the show, since the last season, Jazz made it very apparent by like the 3rd episode that he was interested in Hilary. He approached her. Everything about his approach, I loved it. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. It was just right. Once they connected and spent time with each other, Hilary found, yo, you know what? He's actually cool. And then you see the growth from season 1 to now season 2.
Yeah.
What I've noticed, or I guess what the theme has been for her character, is she reaches a crossroads with some uncertainty, and then she'll make a decision, either go left or go right.
Yeah.
In some instances, she makes the right choice and it works. In other instances, not so much. I think as far as her mom being in her head, I don't think that was in the literal sense. I think it was more so the way her mom dodges the question when it comes to what does dad think. I think that's what really got her. It wasn't so much the mom, because Viv was like, I support you. Well, what about dad though? Hey, I ain't going, you got to ask him. I think that really is what got in her head. A.
Yeah.
B, I think that's a perfect example of what she did at dinner, of what people do all the time. We put our own foot in our mouth. Give you a quick story. When a few years ago, I went to New York for like a cipher, an artist cipher, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
It was for thisis50.com, so very large platform.
Hey, shout out to my man June Archer real quick. Talking about This Is 50. Salute.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And Jack Thriller was the host. So
okay.
Justine Love was there. And this was before Justine Love became who she was. Yeah, at that time she was just coming on board. So she hadn't popped off the way she is now, but she was there. So people in the building, Lil C's was there, My Son was there. Like, it was a place to be as far as being a MC. There was 4 of us. Jack Thriller came out. He said, yo, we about to start. Who wants to go first? I purposely waited for 2 to 3 seconds. I waited just to see what they was going to do. Nobody moved. So I said, yo, I'll go first. He said, all right, cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just counted us off in the line. They dropped the beat. I blacked out, dog. I blacked out. The video's on my Instagram. Y'all can see it. At the end of my joint, Jack Thriller's like, yo, this nigga need to change his name to Mixtape because he sound like a mixtape, right? Anthony. The second guy that came right after me bombed terribly, but I peeped game. I understood why, because it was the same thing. He saw what I did and the way the crowd reacted to it, and he allowed himself to be taken off of his game plan. He came in with a verse already, because that's what they told us. Come in with your verse ready. So he had a verse, but he let what I do get in his head and throw him off. So it was the same thing. Rather than Hilary just being herself, which is who the parents wanted to see, she let Aunt Viv's kind of dancing around the question of Uncle Phil get in her head to the point where she put her own foot in her mouth. So she took herself off the game plan and went completely left, thinking, oh, this will work. And it bombed.
Yeah.
See, it happens all the time, bro. So I think just as far as her character or her character development, that's just kind of who she is. She has an idea, she runs with it to a point, and then it's like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I love how Jazz is always there to pick up the pieces, so to speak. Because even after the dinner, when he's talking to her, you could see the worry in her eyes. She was like, well, we're different. Do you think we're too different? You could see it in her face, like she worried. And he reassured her, look, you rocking with me, I'm rocking with you. That's really what matters. We're not dating Bel-Air. We're not dating your neighbors. We're not dating my neighbors. It's us. So the surroundings don't matter. As long as we here, that's it. And I love that, because that's what it should be. Yeah,
I agree. That's a fantastic assessment. That's a lot. That second half is a lot of what I always thought about her. But again, I thought, I respect, especially when it comes down to how you view Jazz, because I think Jazz is a solid character, and getting to know his background, understanding his dynamics with his parents was a lot. And I can't wait to see, what we get more and more down this season. Going into the next day now, we got Will. He just clean out the fridge, and obviously I'm gonna get through a lot of this really quick. Will gets the call from Doc, and Doc already knows what's up. He got connects, and he says, listen, I'm still trying to rock with you, whatever. He's like, well, swing by with your uncle and we're gonna figure it out. And Aunt Viv is right there.
Yes.
That was a wild scene. When they panned over to Aunt Viv, I can't even lie, bro. I thought everything negative. Instead of the actual what events or what happened, she went out and lobbied for Will. She understood what he wanted, even in the midst of her concentrating on her own project, her own event. She had the wherewithal to go say, "Let me go take care of." Yeah, let me go take care of him real quick. Let me go handle that, man. Everybody needs an Aunt Viv in their life. That's just what it is. That's just all it is, man.
I knew it was going to be blowback, but I respected the move, though.
Yeah, and I want to talk. When we get there, we're going to talk. We get G and Phil suit game on 1,000, but we already knew that. But G said he's going to run some personal errands, and Phil is looking like, okay, cool. Yasmin and Carlton. Yasmin comes smack at Carlton, says it all makes sense now. Miss Basson got in your head. Now you're on the Founders Award list. Although we collectively had a plan, you had your own agenda, and Carlton's looking like, wait, what? But you know,
she don't know.
Yeah. Hilary and Viv, and the two of them are just chopping it up, boss mode, as Viv said to Hilary, but they're both bossing up right now. And this is just the conversation about, you know, the differences and approval that we already talked about in terms of jazz. We have Will and Phil, because Will decided to clean the fridge, wash the car, and he's definitely like lingering around because he wants something. And he says, "Hey, remember Doc?" And well, you know where that went, because they went right to Doc camp, which
I was surprised. I mean, Uncle Phil was going for it. When that mix scene cut and he was in there with him, I was like, oh.
Phil is a businessman. He's not, and beyond that, beyond him having this firm, beyond the run for office, he's always going to take a meet, and he went in there exactly what I think he's going to do. And I think, although we respect these characters and we're adults ourselves, we have to understand that, well, Will is a high schooler, and this is a grown man who is filthy rich, who has made a living for himself. When you were in high school, in middle school, and everybody that's listening, whether your parents or your guardian or whoever it may be, they went out and did these things that you wanted to do that they had no clue what they had anything to do about. And I mean, you talking about whether you wanted to play in the Boys and Girls Club or after school program, or maybe you just wanted this new clothing line that they ain't never heard of, but they went to the mall to take you. And you was just like, yeah, I really want to wear this. It's like, all right, I guess. And they were there with you. And I think it's a lot of that. While we were our lens in terms of like, okay, he knows who he is, but like, he not really messing with him. I think parents still has this idea of saying, well, I still want to make you happy if it's an option, but Phil's also a guy that's always going to take a meeting because there's benefit in communication, which he has consistently held that thing close to him. Yeah. If there's a means of talking to resolve something, I'm always going to entertain. I'm not going to yeah, we're going to call him Dr. Phil because that's what he acting like right now.
That's real. And I think Uncle Phil's character ultimately he's a protector, because as a parent, sometimes you got to be able to protect your kids from themselves. Yeah. And that's the heart. That's what's being illustrated in all these episodes. The level of difficulty that comes with protecting your kids from themselves. Yes, you have a dream. Yes, you have basketball skills. Yes, you can probably maybe take it to the league and really do something. However, in your rush to get to the end goal, there are pitfalls that you might trip and fall on. And some of these pitfalls, you twist that ankle for real, you can't get back up from that. So Uncle Phil understands that part of it, and where you try to, as the guardian, explain that to who you're guarding, therein lies the rub. So I think the show has done a very good job of illustrating those dynamics. Yeah. And I also like the direction that the story is going in, where Uncle Phil does ultimately decide to support Will and go down and at least talk to Doc.
Yeah. You know? And when he shows up, he says, "Listen, it's 10,000 for the fee, 500 a month." Doc tried to.
But I ain't really worried about that.
Doc, Doc tried to play him with like the scholarship or the financial aid. You know, we can discuss this now if you want. But then, you know, they did talk. They had the conversation, and he said, "We'll, you know, go get a fade and whatnot." I'm gonna go through a lot of this real quick. But Carlton, Lisa, and you know, Lisa is not one of my favorite characters, but Lisa is one of my favorite people on this show. Constantly showing empathy, constantly understanding, and constantly selfless. Where she a lot of times gets the short end of the sticks, but continues to be positive. One of my favorite type of people, and she's one of my favorite type of people on the show. But she says, "Listen, you don't have to explain yourself to me." Right. And while Carlton's like, "Oh, well, people think I tainted," and just like Lisa's just like, "Bro, leave it alone." But anyway, Lisa and Drew.
But I like on that same point because Lisa and Will did the same thing. That same conversation you're talking about. Remember what she tells him at the end. Look, go talk to her. Yeah. If you don't open up to some degree, this is what you're about to get for the rest of the year. This is what they're going to think of you. Yeah. Right. So this is his ex telling him, go holla at Shorty, go talk to her. I know you like her. I can see it. But then in the next scene or two scenes, Will tells him the same thing. Yo, she go talk to her, bro. So there's this constant theme of open yourself up, be honest, and go, even though she probably don't want to hear from you, but go talk to her and just let her know what's up. And I thought that was very big of Lisa, given the dynamics of their prior relationship.
Absolutely typical Lisa here to just be understanding and try to make things for the better. But Will gets his haircut. Jackie shows up, and you know, they're doing their little thing, but you know, Will is still trying to work on her, and she's still playing the long game. But you know, we'll talk about that in a second. So we get Doc and Phil, and they basically just have two different methods about what it takes for somebody to be great. That's to really sum this up. And then Phil did peep that he was trying to get a percent of his earnings from the NIL deal
in perpetuity.
I
throw that in there too, in perpetuity.
but the funniest thing here is that he's like, well, I don't know. It seemed like something your wife would have completely understood, and I knew I was gonna go up, but that's it. He just disrespected my man. But he walked out and he said, "Listen," and Will was like, "Come on, man. Like I know he may not be Bel-Air enough for you, but this is exactly why I like him.
What I need exactly."
Going to Ashley tossing her stuff, and this is just Will again, as I said, telling her that you know. You got it. You have to continue to believe in this because we believe in you. And why Ashley blames herself for the firing and the suspension, you know, she makes the statement of what's the point of trying to change stuff if it just ends like this, which is definitely a life lesson, which is something that I asked myself a lot when I was younger. So, but it is a sign of maturity to understand that like just because you do good doesn't mean that you're going to get a good result.
Right.
That's just not how it always works out. But you still have to stay motivated and continue to strive and thrive in what you believe in.
Exactly. The world is very black and white and then very gray all at the same time.
Exactly.
And trying to explain that to a kid is tough.
Yeah. Phil and Viv. And Viv basically says, I didn't need your permission to go do this and whatnot. But as she lays Phil out and says, man, we have to listen to what he needs and whatnot. And she's like, what is it with you and Doc? And Phil says, me and you need to be on the same page when it comes to Will. So, you know, they say a lot of exchange, but that's just the sum of it and whatnot.
And I love that back and forth that they had, I think was necessary. I love the dialogue that Aunt Viv was using. We have to listen to Will. We can't be the puppet masters. We can't let him we don't get to decide who he thinks should be in it. Everything she said was so on point and necessary. I think Uncle Phil needed to hear that from her in that manner, because that's what made him slow down and think about it. Will has been telling him the whole thing since last season. He wasn't going for it. She's mentioned it several times last season. He wasn't going for it, but it came to the boiling point and she's like, yo, I get, and I love Phil's response. I love him too. Yeah, he's your nephew by blood, but I love him too the same.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to make sure he don't fall into some nonsense that he can't get out of later, which I respect. Because again, it goes back to protecting you from yourself.
I love the result of this conversation by the conversation they have later. That's where I'm gonna speak on this a little bit. But Will and Carlton, they get ready for the black car for the bowling party. That Carlton feels like his black card has been revoked, but he's like, man, you still gotta go.
But that encouragement from go talk to her, bro.
But immediately after this, we get the Phil and Viv scene where they are apologizing. And Viv is like, this is not us. This is what I liked here. And Phil being able to find a safe space with Aunt Viv with everything that he's going through. Like, you're acting uncharacteristic. What's going on? And he's like, well, it's James at the firm, and then it's Doc, and then G's after the distant, and secretive, and then Viv says everyone's not against you, and I just loved how like they were able to, even in the midst of like this right here is like God tier quality in terms of like companionship. Is that while they blew up at each other in the scene before that, she was still able to be there for him and sense that something was wrong, that he was being uncharacteristic, instead of just throwing bombs at each other, instead of just escalating it with no resolve here. I love this a lot. And
I do too. And I just want to say to all of my ladies that are viewing, all of the women viewers, please take note. Society, I'm keeping it 100. Society has programmed us, men and women, into believing absolute specifics about the sexes. So men for so long have been put in a box. You have to be strong. You have to provide. You have to protect. You can't cry. You're not allowed to feel. You got to take the disrespect. This is every man, regardless of ethnicity, goes through this. So many of us do not feel or even have the mental capacity to process what a safe space is. We don't know what that is. And in the times where we probably feel like we do have a safe space and divulge things that make us vulnerable, the women take it and use it against us, or they go tell their friends, or they go clown you and put it on social media. So please, to my ladies viewers, if y'all have a man, or you in the process of getting a man or talking to a man, understand the value of what Aunt Viv did in this episode. Allow your man to feel what he feels. Please allow him to speak to you and be that shoulder for him. It's so necessary.
And creating a safe space is very important. I think even with Phil and acknowledging that how he spoke to her before was inappropriate by yelling and raising his voice and whatnot, that she was able to accept that and say, it's okay, now solution, let's move forward. But also, what's going on with you? And I think that's
we need that.
It's a lot. Absolutely.
Right. It's so many brothers I know that they're walking time bombs for that exact reason, because their stress is up to here and they don't have no way to get it out. None. And that's why they pop off. So you know what I mean?
Jazz and the family dinner. We all talked about that, so we'll skip that. Carlton teaching Will how to bowl, and Will thinks he's the man because he's an athlete. But
I love that was a nod to the original episode. Where he was going to quit school or whatever it gonna be. I love how they snuck
That's right. I didn't even think of that. That's right. You're absolutely right. But I did not even think about that.
So I like how they snuck that in there.
Immediately after that, we get Will and Lisa, and they're having a moment, and they're just kind of talking about everything. And Drew is mugging because they drove together and whatnot. He comes over talking about some "What's up, King?" But Jackie texts him, and he rolls out and tells Carlton he's going to go with Jackie, but he said he only a babysitter. But what's really quickly interesting about the two of them, about Will and Lisa, is that Will had it look like a little eye for her, like, you doing good? All right, cool. Oh, I see you with Cuz now. Okay, cool. And then he's like, I don't think that's your type. And then she said, well, that's what everybody thought about us. That was
No, I need that. Who said
it? Put your foot in your mouth real quick there, sir. But anyway, we get Phil and G, and he's talking about, hey, what's good? He's I'm just making sure you're happy. He's like, listen, I'm just here to do my job. And then he talked about James and having a meeting, but that wasn't the end of that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Carlton, Yasmin, and this got interesting. Yasmin's just 5, and she's not dealing with Carlton. But then Drew comes in and is like, bro, you just need to take this L and move on. And he just does not let off on him. And he's just like, listen, Carlton's like, don't act like you know me. Exactly. And you wanted
on you, boy.
Yeah, and then Drew was basically like, man, you wanted to help yourself, but everybody didn't want to listen to me. Now you got the facility nominating for the Founders Award, but after that, it was enough, as Drew just got disrespectful, and Carlton just beat him down, and he came out and let everybody know, like, listen, I had a panic attack, man. I deal with anxiety, and
I'm drunk. Even the way he's, again, the script, the actual word usage. My man said, I'm drugged out most of the time when y'all see
trying to operate in
then
this
I got
bubble.
the stress of school, and I got to fit into this bubble, this Bel-Air bubble with y'all. Bruh, I felt that.
For no doubt. And again, Lisa
Okay.
coming to also co-sign saying, man, I thought we were supposed to be creating a safe space, but look how
We're
y'all
supposed to
acting.
be unified, and it's uncanny, bro, because some of this stuff mirrors real life.
No doubt.
That's the
That's
thing
what the show.
in our community. Yeah, like we need the unity. That's the thing. Everybody, oh yeah, let's stick together. Let's and then at this in a split second, y'all let each other throw. What happened?
That's what the show does. That's what the show does fantastic is the mirror in a real
they
life.
hold that mirror up. Yes.
Mhm.
And let me say, I don't know the actor's name that plays Drew, but he's great because anytime someone can portray a character and make me really hate them, like personally, they real, you're doing your job, bro. I could not wait for him to get punished. That's all I was waiting for. Please hit him.
It's odd that everybody had that same type of hatred for Carlton last
season. Yeah, but he's doing his job. I like Carlton last season, but I understand why why there was that disdain for him. And I felt the same way, believe it or not, bro. Cameron's performance in Paid in Full was stellar.
Yeah.
I hated him by the end of the movie. I hated him.
Yeah, B.
That's how
everybody
I know
gonna
he did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah. He really made me dislike him. Like, dog, he's not even like, I mean, it's based on a true story, but it's like,
right.
Oh, he did that too good. So I'm like, he got some acting chops.
Yeah. I'm gonna get through the last of this. A little bit more things left. We got Lisa and Carlton, and Lisa saying like, you didn't have to do that. But anyway, Carlton's like, let's go for a ride. Will and Jackie, he pulls up to the studio, and Will at the corny channel is Chris Brown, but we also get to see what Jackie else is involved with, and she is a trained dancer with skill, and I like this little jam session she had. That was really dope. Definitely dope to have that in the show and to let this actor go off the way she did. That was definitely dope. Yes. Hilary and the overkill at the dinner, we already talked about that, but here's what's the next thing that should be implications for what's going to happen later on in the season is Jill, Phil, G, and James, as we find out that the whole firm is tanking. Essentially. They got offers. They're looking for an acquisition, and we understand that Phil and James were the founders, but they just wore different images. It's like anything else. You could say like, oh, you think Dana White owns the UFC? He doesn't, but he's the face of it, and it seems like Phil was like the face that made everybody come in, but James ran the day to day. But with Phil not being there, it didn't hold the same. It didn't create the same type of revenue that they had once got. But the partners and everybody seems to be all on board, but they need a miracle in order to survive. So we see that there's a financial trouble coming ahead for the Banks household. And I was just happy to find out that my man wasn't double crossing Uncle Phil. Like I said, that's forever Martin's cousin. So he got a cool card for me that like, don't revoke your cool card, bro. Yeah. I didn't know, when they started talking, you see how the camera panned to G, and he just sitting there like, what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, what he about to say? But he tells him, come on, Phil, you left. When you depart, you're not thinking about. You was the face. You was the star. You brought all the clients. They wanted to be, your association made everything. So if you don't want us to say, and I like that, because he could have just went, nah, bro, we selling it. Forget what you're talking about. But I like that olive branch was still extended amongst friends, even though they're having a difference of opinion at the moment. And it's like, all right, well, if you don't want us to sell, we need a miracle, like right now. Exactly. We'll making breakfast and talk about the BSU chat and talk about what Carlton did, but also open up a discussion for Black people and mental health. And Will now is trying to convince Phil that, listen, no grind, no grit, no greatness. We need to go talk. And Will convinces Phil to say yes, all right, and they eventually go back to talk to Doc. We already talked about Hilary and Jazz all the way. Carlton looks like he is moving on from Yasmin as he deletes the number. Ash, as we talked about with Ashley again, and Phil and Will talking about, listen, you can't give up. We need you. And gives her a Black Lives Matter drawing, which seems to provide additional motivation for her to go forward with what she wants to do. But Doc office, we get Phil and Will. They make the decision. Phil made some liberties in terms of the contract and wanted Phil no perpetuity. Yeah. Will says, listen, I know he was going to get the best deal for me, but you said, listen, he'll play for you, but you don't own him, and they got a deal. Then they leave, and they're happy. You got to respect that. Yeah. And Jackie comes in and says, well, how did it go? It says, well, job well done.
Well
and
done.
thanks to you, you got him here. He's in, and it looks like it's some shadiness going on.
And that's what I wanted to say. The last point I wanted to touch on, I guess, the duality of her character.
Yeah.
In my notes, I literally put Jackie is the opposite of what we thought, because the way they introduced her, connotations went with that. Not to say she was.
It was always question marks around her,
but
right?
it was all it's like who is this hood chick that know everything, and it's like Spider-Man. She's there, then she gone. She pop up in her and then she gone. Like and then you get to see her in this light. Oh, she's like a professional studio dancer. She's trying to go to Juilliard. She maintains a 3.0. So every stereotype that you placed on her based on how they presented her immediately gets shattered. I love that aspect. So it's like now I'm looking at her in a whole different light. And then to that part that you just say, now when she's in Doc's office at the end and he's saying, good job, you got him here, you see the zoom and you see the worried, concerned look on her face. Like, what am I doing? What did I get?
What did I get him into?
Exactly. Yeah. And I love how they kind of left it right there. Like, you got to wait to the next one.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other questions I want to have, even though we're like way up on our time, we don't want to go too long on this. It's like, do you think there's potential that Lisa and Carlton may be cruising down that path again?
I was going to ask you the same thing, because the deleting of Yaz's number to me says one of two things. Either A, she's going to turn around and contact him later now that she knows the full story, or B, he's kind of just, let me just, cut my losses, and now the path reopens for him to possibly get back with Lisa. It's one of the two.
Yeah. And obviously she was hyping my man for beating Drew. So, you know, and the girl, they like when you scrap, man.
Like when you show a little, like, okay, you can fend for yourself.
Carlton helped, he helped for himself. That made her happy, man. He's like, okay.
And I like the way they went, because I thought it was going to be worse. Like when he was on top of him, I thought he was going to punish him to the point they had to call police and he's going to get charged and they was going to go that route. That's what I was thinking. But he gave him a couple little blows and then got up off. I'm like, man, you ain't even worth it. All right, boom, and bounce.
Yeah, so we don't need the police involved no more.
Yeah, I like they kept it like, all right, they ain't go too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks, the episode is available now. Y'all get in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about the episode, things we might have missed, their predictions, and so on going on for next week. I know for me, I'm just going to say it's going to be interesting to see what Jackie and Will relationship is. It's going to see what Will's decision is when he gets reinstated into the school. Do they bring him back on the team? Will he have to make the hard decision? What's up with the firm? What is the financial situation and the strains put on the family? Viv is still working on her business. Yeah, where's the miracle? Does it come by way of Will in the NIL deal? Does it come with Viv and her arts? Does it come from Hilary and her deal that she's making? Somebody may have to step up financially here. And ultimately, does Phil start acting different when the money's not right? And ultimately, the other thing we have to talk about, what is G after, which I know it is his son. I know it's his son. What would that play?
And I want to know, if it is his son, how does that correlate to whatever was in Uncle Phil's laptop from the last episode? That's what I want to know. Why was you in Uncle Phil's laptop? What could he possibly have
location
in regard to your son?
Hiding them from him. Yeah.
You feel me? Yeah. So that's the big question for me. Like, what's really going on? And does that play into why Jeffrey is now kind of acting distant and, you know, funny?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway, folks, y'all let us know, and we'll be back next week for episode 5. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for this one.
Already.